folks, welcome back. Dennis Toza, also known as F Noodles. And before we get started, I should mention that I'm still in the process of getting a root canal. So half of my face is currently frozen because I had to go back to the dentist today and get more work done on my tooth. Yay! So if my lips are moving a little weird throughout this video or my speech sounds a little off, that's why. Hopefully it all wears off soon. But until then, we're just going to power through this. Anyway. With all that out of the way, today we're talking about The Odyssey again. Yes, The Odyssey, the same movie we've been talking about for what feels like a month at this point, and somehow there's still more to talk about. Today we're going to be talking about some of new reactions that have come out, people defending The Odyssey, people attacking The Odyssey, and some older clips that have resurfaced showing that not only are people arguing that The Odyssey is woke, but that members of the cast themselves have made comments that are now fueling those accusations. So there's a lot to get into. Now, before we dive into all of that, let's start with the biggest piece of news. The Odyssey is now sitting at $639 million worldwide and is currently expected to earn at least $1.3 billion globally. That means that according to what I said a few weeks ago, when we first started covering this movie, it will most likely end up making money. It'll surpass the $1 billion mark, which is roughly where it needed to land in order to become profitable. So at least based on the current projections, it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, all that being said, there are so wildly different opinions about what this movie actually is. Is it woke? Is it not? Has Christopher Nolan fundamentally changed Homer's story, or are people overreacting? That debate isn't going away anytime soon, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. So let's start with Charlamagne the God and Andrew Schulz discussing the claims that The Odyssey is woke. Here it is.
It's just a great fucking movie. Like,
Yeah.
It was just a great film. That is what cinema.
Why do I feel like there's a but here?
There's no but. That is what cinema is supposed to be.
Feels like there's a but.
There's no but. What but is it? My only but has nothing to do with the movie.
Which is?
It's watching the reactions of people on social media that I clearly have not seen the movie because they're calling it a woke film.
It's not even.
It's nothing remotely. By the way, if you're calling it a woke film, your racism and bigotry is really showing because it has no wokeness in it whatsoever.
I don't know if it's racism and bigotry is really showing, but like it is the problem with like the performative wokeness and that becoming something that you're framed as.
But they're only calling it woke because there's a trans in it and some black people.
Well, we're going to get to that.
And I didn't even know the person was trans.
We're going to get to that in a second.
Great job, whoever did the surgery.
Yeah. But like, I think what's happening is like right now people are like, Disney is doing all this forced diversity and forced wokeness, right? So now we've been framed to look at things in that way. When we were growing up, I don't even know if Disney made white cartoons. All I saw growing up was Aladdin, Mulan, I'm trying to think, the Lion King.
So
but I never was like, look at them trying to be woke, making a brown cartoon or an Asian cartoon. Like,
but Schultz, if there's a movie with a cyclops in it, a six-headed mountain that eats people,
right?
Shut the fuck up.
No.
Wokeness.
Well, I'm gonna get. Actually, we're gonna even go back to the wokeness thing in a second. How wrong they are about it, and like how deliberate decisions were made, and which is like, you're showing a disrespect to how thoughtful Nolan is with filmmaking to think he would just throw something in willy-nilly, right? So we'll get to it.
Nobody thought it was
willy-nilly. But I think what's happened is because there have been like these performative woke shit where we're like, let's just make the girl version of this guy movie. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, let's make girl Ghostbusters. Like, there has been this effort, like, which is like kind of low-hanging fruit to just be like, oh, let's just flip it. We have this IP that works. Let's just flip it. I think people's brains have gotten a little warped that they think everything that happens to be that is this performance, is woke performance, when it's not.
Nothing about that movie is woke.
Okay, so the opening, people
it's a trans, though. You put a trans in something?
We'll get to it, but we'll get to that.
That's what it is.
So the opening, right? Travis Scott opens it.
I did not know that was Travis. And I kept saying, is that fucking Travis Scott?
What? So Travis Scott opens it, right? And
okay, look, you can be as charitable as you want, but here's the thing. Charlamagne works in hip-hop. He knows Travis Scott personally. He's met him. He's talked to him. Travis Scott himself tweeted about being in the movie. Are we really supposed to believe Charlamagne had no idea that it was Travis Scott in the movie? Look, I'll be charitable and say, okay, maybe you genuinely didn't know Charlamagne, but if that's the case, you're just coming across as a retard. At the same time, you're immediately pointing out that Elliot Page is trans, so clearly you're aware of some of the casting choices. So come on, none of this is adding up. It just seems like you're just trying to give this movie a pass and hit on the woke, because right now there has been an overcorrection with the criticism of the wokeness, and Andrew Schulz started kind of taking that apart. We have to watch more of the clip to see how far he goes in that criticism, but This goes beyond the casting decisions themselves. I'm not saying the entire movie is woke. In fact, they said the exact opposite in one of my early reviews. I said the movie could end up being terrific, could end up making a lot of money, and if it was, people would probably overlook the casting decisions. You can go back and watch one of my first videos on this because that's exactly what I said. And for the most part, that's exactly what ended up happening. The movie appears to be a success, and a lot of people are willing to look past those casting choices because they enjoyed the final product. But here's where I think the real issue is, the double standard. You have a movie like Moana with diversity consultants on set to make sure every cultural detail, every casting decision, and every aspect of the production reflects the source appropriately. There's all this emphasis on authenticity and representation. Then all of a sudden, when it's a story rooted in ancient Greece, one of the foundational texts of Western civilization, that same standard completely disappears. Suddenly, it's perfectly acceptable to cast people in ways that aren't representative of what ancient Greece historically looked like. Suddenly, historical accuracy is no longer important. It gets thrown out the window. That's the postmodern, deconstructionalist mindset I'm talking about when it comes to Western culture, European heritage, and Mediterranean history. It's treated as something that can be reshaped, dissolved, or ignored. But that same attitude doesn't apply to other cultural projects. Just flip the situation around here for a second. What if the roles were reversed? What if Moana were cast as a white actress? What do you think the reaction would be? Do you honestly think Charlamagne would be sitting here saying, "No, it's a wonderful movie. I didn't even notice"? Do you think he'd say, "I didn't even realize it was Eminem playing Maui. I didn't even notice"? Come on, give me a break.
He's basically,
they call him a bard. He's a bard.
He's a bard. Yeah, that's the term, right? So what a lot of people might not know is that the Homer's The Odyssey and the Iliad were not written down. This is oral tradition.
Yeah.
So poets at the time would share this oral tradition. They would go into these, alleys, or there'd be a place where they would talk, and there'd be like a bar hall, and they would tell these great stories, and people would sit around and they would listen to these great stories.
Okay, so that should have been Andre 3000, not Travis.
Well, what is Travis?
A rager?
He is a modern day poet.
Yeah, okay.
So now, are there people who are more known for their storytelling in bars? Sure. This is Chris Nolan. He's a British guy. It's probably his kid's favorite rapper is fucking Travis. So he's like, oh, okay, that's what.
And he worked on the soundtrack.
So the idea to me is like,
So
in his, I imagine his eyes, is going,
okay,
poets back in the day would tell these stories.
Right.
Let's take a modern day poet to start the telling of the story.
Right.
And if you notice throughout the movie, it's all told through story.
Absolutely.
So Matt Damon is remembering his past with Calypso. So he's telling the story, and then you see it acted out.
Well, even an ill line. I'll find it. Go ahead.
Anyway, so that's the first woke thing that I think doesn't make sense. He's not like, oh, how do I get a black guy in here? He's like, okay, let's have a rapper do it because these are the modern day poets, and let's maintain that. Right? So that's number two. That's number one. The Lupita Nyong'o being Helen of Troy. That was the other issue?
That's what she was?
Yeah.
What?
I didn't know who the fuck she was.
Do you know who Helen of Troy is?
Yes, I do. But I didn't need that because they was telling the story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So being that they're telling
Did
the
you watch
story,
the movie?
I didn't even think about it.
The Trojan War was fought over, who was it? Paris stealing Helen from whatever, John
She had a
Bertrand.
twin too in the movie.
Which is that is, I have a problem with that. And that's not
Yeah, because
consistent.
Helen of Troy didn't have a twin sister, did she?
Yeah, and also how can you be the most beautiful girl in the world if you have an identical twin?
Ooh.
There's only one most beautiful,
I mean, one might keep it hairy.
which would make you more beautiful.
Back then, yeah.
Because we appreciate women, and we appreciate that.
Okay, well, fuck this, dude. In my opinion, Charlamagne is just being disingenuous. You're telling me you watched that whole movie and didn't know half of this stuff, really? Were you actually paying attention? You didn't know that Lupita was playing Helen of Troy? What are we doing, brother? Come on. At a certain point, this stops sounding believable and just starts sounding like you're just pretending not to notice things that are obvious to everyone else so that you can keep pushing this retarded agenda. Anyway, moving on, as I mentioned in my last video covering this, Elon Musk offered to fund a version of the Odyssey made using Grok AI. He also offered Mel Gibson $100 million to direct his own version of the story. And let's just say some folks in the late-night Disney-friendly media circuit didn't exactly appreciate that offer.
Meanwhile, we could have yet another Odyssey movie on the way. Now, Elon Musk is planning to create what he calls a historically accurate version of the Odyssey using his Grok AI. And by historically accurate, he means whiter than Christmas at Cracker Barrel.
Is that really?
Of course. This is all because Elon and his musketeers are upset over the diversity casting of The Odyssey. And I don't want to get technical here, but you can't make a historically accurate version of something that is totally made the up. I mean, The Odyssey is fiction, you know, like the Hunger Games or the president's cognitive exams. I mean, come on. Doesn't Elon Musk have better things to do? Wasn't this bitch supposed to be on Mars by now? But maybe we should show a little compassion for Elon. This is a tough time for him. Helen of Troy is a beautiful black woman. And this week, right? And this week, Jimmy Kimmel is a beautiful black man.
Right out the gate, that is one of the lowest IQ arguments I've ever heard. So you're telling me that Homer, who lived in ancient Greece, wrote about ancient Greeks and told stories centered on the adventures of the ancient Greeks within the context of ancient Greece, was somehow thinking about modern Africans or the American Empire or perhaps even the Roman Empire? No, that's all ridiculous. Yes, the Odyssey follows events connected to the Trojan War, which has historical roots, but everything else is framed within the world Homer lived in and understood. The story is inseparable from that ancient Greek cultural and historical context. The issue people have is a double standard. It's not that the Odyssey alone is being adapted. It's that the Greek context is treated as completely malleable, while other cultures' stories are often expected to maintain a much closer connection to their historical and cultural origins. That's the point. Personally, I honestly couldn't give a shit how you cast the Odyssey if that same standard were applied consistently across the board to Moana, to every other film based on a historical and culturally specific story, and to every culture equally. If the principle were applied evenly, I think a lot of the criticism would disappear because it wouldn't look like Western European culture and heritage are being specifically targeted and dismantled by this woke establishment. That's what a lot of people, including myself, are pointing to. Do you understand the argument now, or do I have to explain it to you 100 times slower? Or are you stuck on this whole Jimmy Kimmel black host thing instead of actually engaging with the point being made? Or are you too busy fawning over how beautiful you think you are? By the way, some of the cringiest shit I have ever witnessed. Anyway, all that being said, there are new criticisms coming out about this movie, and this specific TikTok captures a lot of them.
This is a really good movie! Yeah! Yeah, it is. It's a great movie! What is that? Oh, I'll be allowed. Oh, I'll be allowed. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Krakatawa! Oh, God!
Yeah, that's been one of the criticisms I've heard about this movie, that it's unbearably loud and that it almost feels like it's overcompensating for the substance of the film by constantly trying to overwhelm the audience with its volume. It's like, oh, we're losing the audience, make it louder, instead of letting the story carry the emotional weight. It just keeps turning everything up to 11. Anyway, we've already covered a lot of what Lupita Nyong'o and Elliot Page were saying in the lead up to the release of this movie, but they're not the only cast members who have made public statements. There are other Odyssey stars weighing in as well, John Leguizamo being one of them. This is something that he unironically posted on his social media.
If you follow ICE, unfollow me. Don't come to my shows and don't watch my movies.
Dude, my mouth hurts too much to deal with this kind of garbage. I mean, what are you even talking about, brother? Who cares? People are allowed to have different political opinions in this country. You don't need to bully people into agreeing with you just so they can go and watch your movie. That's not how this works. This is America. People are going to watch whatever the hell they want. You're free to hold whatever views you want on immigration policy or ICE, even if other people think those views are completely deranged. And everyone else is just as free to disagree with you while still deciding whether or not they want to buy a ticket to your movie. That's how a free country works. And look, if you don't like the fact that people are allowed to disagree with you, then maybe you're the one who has a problem with the whole concept of America. Anyway, moving on, an old statement from Anne Hathaway has resurfaced and it's been making the rounds online. Here's what she had to say.
With the exception of being a cisgender male, everything about how I was born has put me at the current center of a damaging and widely accepted myth. That myth is that gayness orbits around straightness, transgender orbits around cisgender, and that all races orbit around whiteness. And it is a myth that keeps money and power in the hands of the few instead of being invested in the lives of the free. I appreciate this community so much because it's where I learned to reject this myth. I appreciate this community because together we are not just going to question this myth, we are going to destroy it.
Gosh, I really wish my mouth didn't hurt this much. I wish I could give a full, in-depth response to this nonsense, but this is just absolutely unhinged. It's completely disconnected from reality. Nobody thinks that gayness somehow orbits around straightness. Nobody thinks transgenderism orbits around cisgenderism, where that race somehow orbits around whiteness. In fact, if you look at the world as a whole, people of European descent are a global minority. They may still be the majority in this country, but globally, we are not. So that entire framework is incredibly American-centric and frankly rooted in a very specific liberal perspective. It doesn't really reflect the global reality. And as far as our broader point goes, there isn't some endless universe of equally valid sexual categories or identities branching off in every direction. There's just the procreative act, and then there are ways of expressing sexuality that depart from that function. They're dysfunctional. That's it. It really is binary, and that's why I don't think this is nearly as complicated as Anne Hathaway tries to paint it out to be. Anyway, folks, my mouth is absolutely killing me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoy the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it. I'll see you at the next one. Take care. Peace.